Good evening, everyone, and welcome along to the F1 show with me, Charlie, Jack, and Charlie Tolhurst. As you can see along the bottom of your screen, there's some breaking news coming in, which we got about an hour ago, that Kevin Magnussen will be making a shock Formula One return in 2022 after Nikita Mazepin had his contract ripped up following the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And obviously, at this hard time, we send our best thoughts and wishes to all of those who are affected by the current situation developing in Ukraine. But Charlie, did you see Kevin Magnussen coming back as a Formula One driver? There was a lot of talk about Pietro Fittipaldi and Oscar Piastri. It's believed that Oscar Piastri will go to V8 Supercars now. But Kevin Magnussen, of all people. Oh, we can't hear you, Charlie.
Hello, everyone. Sorry about my mic was muted. Apologies. Yes, surprise of the year, Kevin Magnussen at Haas. Wow. I thought Pietro Fittipaldi was going to do the seat, but yeah, Kevin Magnussen back in the car for the first time since 2020. This is a long wait, guys. I thought he'd never, ever get an F1 seat. Finally, he has.
He has, and what a spectacle this season. The drama has started before we've even got green light for the FP1 session. Obviously, we do have the second test session tomorrow. Pietro Fittipaldi will be stepping in for Kevin Magnussen in that one. So that means, Charlie, that Kevin Magnussen is going to go into the opening round of the season with no testing on the new cars.
No, and that's a thing for him. He's used to the old ones, but the new ones are actually completely different to drive, for what I've been hearing from all the drivers from Barcelona. So it's going to be interesting.
They're a completely different beast to handle. Let's talk about Mazepin, Charlie. He has become the latest Russian to be sanctioned by the UK and the EU, imposing restrictions on his bank transfers. That's because of his father, Dmitry Mazepin, who obviously owns the oil company Uralkali, which did sponsor Haas. They will no longer sponsor Haas. So Haas have got some new sponsors to find. It is believed Rich Energy could be coming back as a Haas sponsor. It has just rolling back to 2020. All we need now is Romain Grosjean to come back, and it will be how it all started.
Yeah, I was just going to say with Dmitry Mazepin, who is Nikita's dad. Apparently, I was told by one of my friend Zach on my show on just the other week that apparently he went to one of Vladimir Putin's emergency cabinet meetings. So yes, apparently Nikita Mazepin unfortunately has been sanctioned, which means he's no longer taking part in Formula One. But yes, all I can say is Haas will terminate sponsor.
With Zach the other day, Charlie, I think it was on Friday, and we were discussing, was it right for Mazepin to be booted out of Formula One? We both agreed it was. What is your opinion, Charlie? Do you think Formula One and Haas have made the right decision here to kick the Russian driver out? Because we believe this decision was heavily encouraged and influenced by Formula One themselves.
Yeah, I think it's the right decision. I have to say, I mean, just to be honest with you, what's happening in Ukraine, I think they need to be punished for it, unfortunately. I know it sounds horrible, but it's the invasion should have never have happened. And I just have to say that I feel like they've been let. I mean, I just have to say that they're going to have to get punishments, I'm afraid, for what's happened.
And in terms of F1, Charlie, we won't be going to the Agora Drive circuit anytime in the future either, which was obviously planned to come onto the calendar next year. So we won't be going to Agora Drive in the future. However, Stefano Domenicali still believes we can get a 23 race calendar this year, potentially Istanbul Park coming in. He's even looking at, as Stefano and Liberty Media and the FIA, of making either Istanbul or Portimao a permanent feature on the Formula One calendar in the coming years, with Liberty Media saying we could see up to a 25 race calendar next season.
How mad, 25 races. Oh, I bet that's going to be a lot of trouble for the teams and drivers if you have to start travelling to loads of places with all that freight on board.
But obviously, just going back to Kevin Magnussen, Charlie, obviously he raced in IndyCar last year and he done well in IndyCar. But there's a big difference between an IndyCar and the Formula One car. Now, obviously, Mazepin did drive an F1 car for long. He had a good career in F1, quite a few years. And obviously, he's coming back to F1. But what are the differences exactly going to be? Obviously, F1's come a long way in that year. Last year, lots of developments. We had a season like no other. I'm pretty sure Magnussen's going to be coming into this season wanting to score some points.
Yeah, and I think as well, Haas have really got to up their game this year, Jack, because last year they were pointless in their first ever pointless campaign. I could not believe how terrible their car was. It was only, as I said last year, they were developing it for this year. So I really hope Haas can get them on the back foot this year and really start scoring points.
I believe Nikita Mazepin will be the only F1 driver in the history of the sport to complete a whole season and not score a single point in his career.
Yeah, probably the only one in history. That would be incredible for the bookies there.
It would. The record, the people that like their stats and their records. We obviously got another record. Lewis Hamilton will go for that second shot of the 8th world title this year. Do you think he can do it, Charlie?
It's going to be interesting, Jack, because I've just read up during the week that Christian Horner has actually criticised Hamilton directly during the week. There was an article I read up that there had been some intra-team rivalries going on Mercedes, and apparently I also heard as well on the new Drive to Survive film. I don't want to give any spoilers out here, but apparently Hamilton... This Friday, yeah. Apparently I heard that Hamilton called Max Verstappen a bully for the way he drove last season.
Well, obviously we will see that in the Drive to Survive series. We're not quite sure whether it's true or not, because obviously some people have seen it, but have been told to keep it exceptionally quiet. Now, we don't see it until you guys see it, which will be on Friday. It looks like a very good season, Charlie, from what I've seen from the trailer. Max Verstappen also said in his interview a couple of weeks ago that he felt it was harsh to sack Michael Masi.
Oh, that's a difficult question, actually, because I have to say Michael Masi was a bit controversial last year with some of the penalties he gave out. Look at Pierre Gasly's one in Turkey. I thought you give Gasly a 5-second penalty because he had nowhere to go and got.
Can I just say, Charlie, at no point did Masi give out a penalty. That is down to the stewards. And there has been some talk, should we have permanent stewards to make so that, because the problem is the stewards are on a rotation, so we could go to Bahrain, for example, and let's say Pierre Gasly could force Sebastian Vettel off the track, and then we could go to Saudi Arabia and it'd be a different set of stewards and it'd be the same story, and Vettel get a penalty. Let's say Pierre Gasly got a penalty. There seems to really have been a mix of decisions last year. It caused a lot of confusion amongst fans and viewers of Formula One, and especially newcomers to the sport. Look, what is allowed and what isn't allowed? So is permanent stewards something you'd like to see? Because for me, it is.
I think it's going to be interesting, Jack, how this will work. I mean, the issue is with the decision-making last year. I kind of feel like Formula One got kind of ruined a bit by having harsh penalties applied and some penalties that were applied for things when other things weren't. So they really need to look at improving the overall message to the fans to say what is acceptable for a penalty, what action they can take, stewards.
Exactly. And Lewis has claimed that Michael Masi made the decision to restart the race in Abu Dhabi, as he did on that final lap, because he wanted a big climax and he wanted Verstappen to win. Hamilton felt that the FIA wanted Verstappen to win. And I actually think Lewis had a right to feel that.
Yeah, I think he's look. I mean, there's frustration for Hamilton. I mean, he was gracious in defeat at the end of it, but you've got to think it was robbed from him at the end of the day because he was dominating that race from the very start.
And without a safety car, he would have won the world championship. That's no doubt in that because he didn't have a mechanical failure. He would have been world champion for the 8th time.
Yeah, and as well as that, he was like 30 seconds clear at one point. I think as well.
1 point, but obviously, what the safety car did allow to do was Max Verstappen to pit and change his tyres. So is that a rule we could look at? No pit stops under a safety car, unless it's
Didn't that happen in Saudi last year as well? I heard something. I think Verstappen or Norris pitted.
Yeah, I think that's something that needs to look into. Should we close the pit lane under a safety car unless it's an urgent reason to pit? So you've lost your front wing or something. You need a new set of tyres, got a puncture. I think that's something we could look into, especially the FIA could look into that. Is pitting under a safety car a fair way of having a pit stop?
I think look at Monza 2020 as an example when Kevin Magnussen broke down on the pit lane entry, and then that shut, and Lewis Hamilton pitted, and then the other drivers on their radios were told pit lane closed, so Hamilton then got penalised for it. That would be very interesting to see if something like that works.
Let's take Formula 2, for example. In Formula 2, you're not allowed to pit before lap 6 unless it's urgent, so you've got a broken front wing puncture, all the rest of it. But you're also not allowed to pit under a virtual safety car in Formula 2 either. But you are allowed to pit under the full safety car.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a red flag, I mean, I don't know what the rules are going to be. I do think it needs to be changed.
In the FIA regulation book this year, it says if a red flag is needed for whatever reason, so a red flag will be needed for debris on the track, extreme weather, or 100% track blockage or barrier damage. They're the reasons we will see a red flag this year. Now, under the red flag rules, work can be completed on a car in the pit lane, but like for like parts have to be changed. So if you've got a broken front wing, you're allowed to fit a new front wing as long as it is exactly the same. And you can change tyres. You can put any set of tyres on that you like. So that is the rule, Charlie, for the red flag regulations this year.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I'll see how the FIA come up with all the rest of these rules. I mean, a safety car at the end of the day does gift people their Christmas presents if it's near Christmas, or can give them a big amount of positions in the race.
Certainly gives them an early Christmas present sometimes. It also makes Halloween come early sometimes as well. We're talking about safety cars. We've got a new safety cars for this year. The Aston Martin Vantage will be staying the same. But there's a new Mercedes safety car, Charlie, the GT Black. Now, I have to say, this safety car does look very, very nice indeed.
Yeah, being a petrol head myself and owning a car myself, I can tell you it looks amazing. I've actually heard the AMG GT is getting an update as well. So the Black Series coming out, it's going to be interesting to see on track.
And we've got a new medical car as well. Another Mercedes, a new 4x4 Mercedes, which was going to be driven by Alain van der Merwe. I don't think that's happening anymore because obviously all F1 personnel are required to be double vaccinated, and Alain van der Merwe is the only one that is refusing to get the vaccine. So the FIA are unfortunately looking like they are going to give him the sack, unfortunately. And it's believed that Formula E's Formula E's safety car driver will come in.
Oh, Bruno Correa. That's what I've been hearing for a lot of people. A lot of rumours going around that he was going to take Alain van der Merwe's seat in the medical car. And I think by what I'm hearing, it seems like he's going to come over.
Yep, and obviously it's been. We understand he will still drive the Porsche Electric Formula E safety car, but if there's a clash between F1 and Formula E, he will choose F. He will have to go with F1. That is what we are understanding. So FE are going to have to find an alternative safety car driver should F1 and FE clash. And I believe it does happen on a couple of occasions this season.
I think so. I'm not sure the dates, but I think maybe Monaco Grand Prix. I'm not sure. I'd have to check the calendar, but yeah, I think a couple of times.
I mean, obviously, we've got the Rome E-Prix, which is this weekend, a double header in Rome as well. I believe we got a new looking circuit. Formula E has also announced, Charlie, it's going to South Africa next year in Cape Town. So we have the Cape Town E-Prix.
Oh, this will be an interesting race. South Africa. Wow. They're going to Korea as well this year in Seoul, I believe, where the Olympics was held in 88. So, yeah, it's going to be very interesting.
Very, very interesting. That Formula E season continues. Now, let's get on to what kicks off tomorrow. And this is officially the start of the season. The opening day of Formula One official testing, which means it'll be on TV. We'll get live timings. We'll get pictures. It won't be like the Barcelona test where it's all undercover. We're going to get full access to this test, Charlie. And we believe that Mercedes are going to come with a bit of a beast.
Yes, and I've just actually, speaking of that, Jack, I've actually just saw something here. Could Mercedes introduce a radical zero pod design? This could be very interesting with ultra sim-lined side pods as well. There's a lot of cars, a lot of teams at the moment. I think like Red Bull, Haas, Alfa Romeo that are experiencing with these like different side pods, which I think at the end of the day are meant to help with aerodynamics.
Yeah, and I've got a lot of questions asking me, what is this green paint we are seeing on F1 cars during testing? And basically, it helps with the aerodynamics. That's a simple way to explain it. I think McLaren on the opening day basically came out with a green livery. There was so much green aerodynamic paint on that car.
Yeah, I think McLaren are updating their livery for Bahrain, what I've been hearing as well. So there's a lot of changes down at Woking.
Yeah, and that Haas livery will also be updated as well with coordination with the new sponsorship, because obviously that did have some Russian symbols on it. They were removed for the last day of pre-season testing, and all of the Eurocali branding around the Haas base in England has also been moved, because that's one of the regulations now here in England. We're not really allowed to have any Russian branded anything.
Nope. Also, yeah, that's it really. I mean, for Haas though, a new sponsor, if Rich Energy comes back, will William Story be wanting good results? The answer will yes, because I think, remember in 2020, I think he actually terminated halfway through the season, if I remember.
They did Rich Energy because they won't get the results. But this does also impact the personnel side of F1 things, Charlie, because it's understood that we have some Russian engineers, and obviously there has been sanctions on Russian people traveling to certain countries, so could potentially cause some slip-ups. And Haas has already got a slip-up because they will be missing the morning session of Thursday's testing because of cargo delays, and that is certainly not what they wanted.
No, it seems like I didn't know that Haas are already going to be missing the first morning session tomorrow. And, bad news for Haas.
Pietro Fittipaldi will be going in for the afternoon session, and then Mick Schumacher will drive on Friday.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting how Magnussen and Schumacher are going to get on this season, because Mick, I think, is going to be fired up for this year.
Absolutely, and the Mercedes lineup, Lewis Hamilton will open their session, followed by George Russell in the afternoon. And for Red Bull, it will be Sergio Perez all day. So no running for Max Verstappen tomorrow, but he will be in the car all day Friday in Bahrain. And obviously, with it being Bahrain, Charlie, we have a lot of night races on the calendar this year. We will be getting a night session as well in the testing. The final hour and a half of that afternoon session will be ran under the floodlights.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Also, before I talk about this, I just want to say to all the F1 drivers today on social media, they all wore their Ukrainian t-shirts today on the grid. There was a big picture literally taken on the start-finish straight today. I just want to commend all the F1 drivers for showing their support to Ukraine.
Charlie, obviously we condemn and we say well done to all of the F1 drivers that took part in that message. But there was one familiar face missing, and we don't know why Lewis Hamilton was missing from this picture. He has been in the past, Charlie. He doesn't like to get involved with these kind of things. However, he has expressed on his Instagram his concerns for Ukraine. Interesting decision how Lewis decided not to pose in this photo.
Yeah, he's obviously very personal reasons, I think. But at the end of the day, Lewis has been personal about this. He's only just really spoken out about this as well. Most of the drivers like Sebastian Vettel were one of the first to come out with the Russian Grand Prix cancellation.
I mean, obviously, Lewis did say he wouldn't be racing in Russia, even if we did go there, along with Sebastian Vettel, Max Verstappen, Fernando Alonso, Pierre Gasly. And to be honest, most of the F1 grid said they didn't want to race in Russia this year, including Stefano Domenicali, the Formula One CEO. We have to congratulate Formula One, Charlie, how quickly they reacted and said, nope, we are not going to Russia in the future or this year.
Yeah, I'm glad they got their act together on this. I mean, it's clear to me. I mean, I even thought going for the first time when Putin annexed Crimea in 2014, I didn't even know the Russian Grand Prix would ever have gone ahead, but they managed to get it on, and yeah, this time round, unfortunately, they're unlucky.
And it isn't. Everyone says, oh, does F1 do it for the money? F1 has lost an estimated £50 million by terminating their contract with the Russian Grand Prix Association. £50 million. That's a lot of money, Charlie.
It is a lot of money, but as I said earlier, I think you've got to look at what the human cost of their war is on Ukraine.
Exactly.
And I think sometimes people have to just do these things.
In the grand scheme of things, of what's going on in Ukraine, obviously, a lot is going on. A lot of horrific things are going on. £50 million is nothing.
No, I don't think to many Russian people they'll just, or for Formula One, they'll just say, look, we need to find somewhere that's alternative, somewhere better, I think, at the moment. Because a lot of drivers have expressed their concerns about racing there. They just don't think it's the right thing to do at the moment.
I don't think anyone does today, Charlie. No one wants to race in Formula One next year. In Russia next year, sorry, not Formula One. I'm just trying to find. And what do you make, Charlie? President Zelensky called for the FIA to ban all Russian competitors. The FIA didn't ban Russian competitors, but Mazepin's been kicked out. It's believed that Zelensky agreed with this, and Formula One was in contact with the Ukraine president as well.
Yeah, I just want to say he done a very powerful address to the Commons the other day as well with the UK situation, mimicking Churchill's quotes. But yeah, I think, he's going to want Formula One to be proactive with this, I think, because at the end of the day, we want racing to be fair. We want racing to be exciting, not what we're seeing at the moment. I think it's clear that Formula One are going to have to try and come up with a solution on this.
Yeah, and we're just actually been told, Charlie, this is coming into us right now, that UK soldiers have now set foot in Ukraine. That just came through a few minutes ago, sir. But that is interestingly, Charlie Tolhurst, not the British Army.
No, they're people that are going to fight for Ukraine, I believe. The British people that have volunteered to come and fight for Ukraine. What I'm hearing.
And obviously, Nikita Mazepin has set up a foundation for Russian athletes who are now been not allowed to compete. Is it controversial, Charlie, that Mazepin's done this?
It's going to be interesting. I wonder whether he'll get boycotted for this or not. It's going to be interesting. I mean, look, I understand people protesting in Russia, but for not wanting a war, I completely get that. But it's interesting what Mazepin's doing here. I'll be very surprised.
Definitely. I don't really know. I haven't really thought about it, to be honest, yet. I think there's much bigger problems going on in the world right now, isn't there? Really?
Yeah, for Nikita Mazepin has certainly done something interesting, but all I can say is he won't be in F1 next year, whether you like it or not. He won't be racing, and he has to accept it, doesn't he?
I mean, there isn't any clarification as to whether he will be coming back in the future, but under the current circumstances, I can't see it happening. If the situation improves drastically, then maybe we could see a return of Nikita Mazepin. Obviously, Kevin Magnussen has only been signed on a 1-year deal.
Yeah, a 1 year. Well, it's a 1 year deal for what I'm hearing, so he's going to probably have to sign a contract if he wants to continue. But yeah, it's just great to see Kevin back. I think he's been a crowd favourite for Haas. He was there for quite a few seasons as well, so he knows the team inside out.
Yeah, he was a fantastic racing driver to watch as well, wasn't he? I found.
Yeah, he was. He was. I think he was a really ruthless racing driver. He never gave up with anything, and he'd always be very, very defensive on anyone.
I actually found this good meme as well, Charlie. Gunther Steiner, you cannot. No, Kevin Magnussen saying you cannot live with your own failure. Gunther Steiner, where did that bring you back to me? Own failure going back to Gunther Steiner. But overall, I'm pretty sure that Kevin Magnussen will be delighted to be back.
Yeah, I think he will be. I think it's a shock. I was shocked by this, but I think at the end of the day, they've got someone in. He has driven in IndyCar before. He has driven in sports cars in Daytona, in IMSA. So it's going to be very interesting to see how he fits in Formula One.
Well, thank you very much again, Charlie, for joining me on the F1 show this evening. I hope you've enjoyed watching along as much as we've enjoyed discussing all of the latest news around Formula One. Obviously, the testing does get underway tomorrow. The opening session from 7 o'clock. That'll be live on Sky Sports F1. The lunch break at 12, followed by the afternoon session at 1 p.m. And then the day will conclude at 5. That runs until Saturday with the opening round of the 2022 FIA Formula One season just 1 week later. We'll see you on the F1 show next Wednesday at 8 p.m. again to discuss all of the build-up to the opening round in Bahrain on the Sakhir International Circuit. It has every ingredient to be another absolute thrilling season, and may it repeat what we saw in 2021. So join us for the F1 show next week. We'll see you then, but until then, have a great rest of your evening, and bye-bye.